When it comes to whiskey history, I recommend caution in research. I do not recommend brand websites or marketing material because they come from companies trying to sell something rather than trying to provide facts. When it comes to bourbon history, I lean towards sources I've grown to trust, like Chuck Cowdery and Michael Veach. That's the direction I went with when reading up about the history of Old Grand-Dad Bourbon. In the 1880s, Raymond B. Hayden named his new whiskey Old Grand-Dad Whiskey after his grandfather, Meredith Basil Hayden Sr. Basil Hayden himself was a distiller in the late 1700s and early 1800s. Raymond Hayden didn't live much past the invention of Old Grand-Dad whiskey, and the company was sold in 1899 to the Wathen family. The Wathens were another distillery family in Kentucky. The Wathens created American Medicinal Spirits Company, which actively sold medicinal spirits during Prohibition. And one might ask, well, what really were medicinal spirits during Prohibition? Well, with a doctor's prescription, a person could get 1 pint of 100 proof spirit once every 10 days. Spirits were also provided to doctors' offices and dentists' offices for professional use. The original Old Grand-Dad Distillery was closed during Prohibition, and in 1929, American Medicinal Spirits was bought by National Distillers. In 1940, National Distillers then bought K. Taylor Distillery in Kentucky and renamed that Old Grand-Dad Distillery, and that is where Old Grand-Dad Bourbon was distilled until 1987, when the company was purchased by Jim Beam. Today, Old Grand-Dad is distilled at Beam's Claremont and Boston, Kentucky facilities. This Old Grand-Dad mini bottle is easy to date thanks to its tax stamp. The bottle was exported to Germany, and as a result, it has a blue tax stamp that looks similar to the green bottled in bond tax stamps used on bottled in bond domestically sold U.S. spirits before 1983. Like the bottled in bond stamp, the export stamp displays the distillation and bottling season and year. If you think it's tough to see it here, it's even harder to see with the naked eye. This bourbon was distilled in spring of 1965 and bottled in the spring of 1970. Old Grand-Dad Bourbon, 86 proof, distilled in the spring of 1963 and bottled in the spring of 1970. It's all going in. Even though the tax stamp tore appropriately, I'm a little concerned that I'm seeing wax that was applied on the inside of the cap. So, we'll see how this turns out. To Old Grand-Dad. What gives me hope that this bourbon wasn't tinkered with is this smell of age. Old warehouses, basements, old shoes, old clothes, old newspapers, brand new baseball bats. It does have this vibrant dessert smell that I like from other National Distillers bourbons. Almond cookies, sugar cookies, vanilla cookies, pound cake, and a little bit of milk chocolate. There is, and I'm not joking, a Pinot Noir note in there. Cheers. It has lost none of its strength. Vanilla pudding pops. I don't know if you remember those, or if they still exist, but I used to love them when I was a kid. Limes, tart oranges, ginger beer, more milk chocolate. It gets a little sweeter, but it's not super sugary. There's a little bit of the musty oak basement note, vanilla and limes in the finish, milk duds. There is a thick viscosity that one does not find in 86 proof bourbons today. It's not the most complex of the National Distillers bourbons, but it's a really, really good drink. And really, what's more important than that? Buyer beware. I believe this cap was altered, or at the very least wax sealed by a previous owner. So remember, you are taking a risk when you buy whiskeys on the secondary market. You may not be as lucky as I was with this one.
Papa.
Sounds like my time is up. Sorry, Fly, you can't have my Old Grand-Dad.